I walk counter to the throng of people heading toward the scene of the explosion. There's a gun pressed against my back, leaving me no choice but to continue marching forward. I don't have time for this right now. There's something I need to do. My frantic sense of urgency grows and grows. Caanan. The only clue I have is that name. The other hazy snippets that I have surfaced in my memory provide no answers. Please, just tell me, I murmur. Do you know who I am? When the man with the cane doesn't answer, I stop in my tracks. I'm going to start shouting, I warn him.
If you want to find out who you are, then do as I say.
The barrel of the gun jabs more forcefully into my back.
Once we find Hitomi Osawa, you'll remember, whether you like it or not.
Guess I have no choice but to keep moving then.
Are your memories really that precious to you?
The man mutters as we start to move again. I'm taken aback by the question. Well, yes. I mean, isn't that pretty normal? There's a bit of a pause before he replies, his voice sad and distant.
You're not going to remember just the good times, you know.
What do you mean?
I mean that sad and painful memories are going to resurface, too.
I guess I hadn't really thought about that. But still, whatever kind of memories they are, they're all a part of me. I'm the person I am now because of the sorrow and pain, too. I want to remember. I want to remember who I am! The gunman directs me dispassionately along a series of quiet side streets.
Right here.
I stop at his words. In front of us is an old multi-tenant office building. We ride the elevator to the 8th floor and use the emergency exit to take the stairs up to the rooftop. A cool breeze blows across my cheek.
Sit down there.
I do as he says, settling myself on the outdoor air conditioning unit. The man lowers his gun but keeps it in his hand.
We'll wait here for a bit.
For how long? He lets out a rueful chuckle.
Guess we'll have to wait and see.
I decided there's no point in trying to fight with him. For now, I have to hope he's telling the truth, and whatever's coming will help me get my memories back. If I don't know about my past, how can I know what to do about this Caanan stuff or anything else? I stare up at the sky as I wait for whatever this assassin is waiting for. The silence between us is suffocating. Finally, I can't take it any longer. Hey, so I think this is yours. I hold out the notebook I picked up earlier. The man's surprise is plain on his face.
Where did you get that?
I saw the picture inside. He snatches the book out of my hand. He then flips through it, looking sad. I'm afraid that another agonizing silence is about to descend when he speaks at last.
This is a picture of me and my childhood friends.
His voice is low and quiet.
We were inseparable back when we were kids. The boy here, he liked to fiddle with machines. Always doing things like taking apart radios and whatnot, and putting them back together. He was a total bookworm too, so he got picked on a lot. But I was always there to save him from the bully.
All of a sudden, this guy's in a sharing mood, I guess. I can feel his aura of murderous rage starting to abate.
The girl here was the same age as us, but she felt more like a big sister. Whatever stupid things my other friend and I got up to, she was always willing to laugh it off.
B? What was her name? I ask, curious to know more.
Kotone. We dated when we were in high school.
Oh, wow. But I get the impression from the picture that the other boy must have liked Kotone too, right? The gunman's eyes widen.
You're very astute.
Call it a woman's intuition, I say proudly. Then I ask the obvious follow-up. So, what happened to you two?
I dumped her.
The man carefully slips the notebook into the pocket inside his jacket. How come? I ask.
I felt it was for the best.
He lets out a little chuckle, then stands up and brushes the dust off his pants. He looks strangely lonely.
I needed to get back to the editing office right away. But despite the urgency, I barely stumbled along. I was swaying on my feet, only half aware of where I was even going. No, this is all some sick joke. I just couldn't accept that Toyama was dead. I let a lifeless sigh. Still a smile on my face. And then always did insist on having his own way. But killing himself. Back when I was still a novice reporter, I'd read a piece about a middle school girl who committed suicide. The school had made a statement denying that bullying had been a factor. So most of the media had reported that she suffered a nervous breakdown over entrance exams. But something of the case had kept nagging at me. Had Had her death really been a suicide? The more people I interviewed about the incident, the more my doubts grew. City news editor, however, would not allow me to conduct a follow-up investigation. And the reason why was simple. This was the sort of thing that happened every day. Couldn't waste time on a case that was already on the books. It was more important for a reporter to find new stories than to squander time engrossed in a case that was old news. I understood the editor's decision well enough. That didn't mean I had to like it. But sulking on the roof, slowly nursing a cigarette, when the paper's local copy editor, Toyama, happened to drop by.
Did you say no to the follow-up interviews?
Toyama asked.
About that girl's suicide?
Yeah. I expelled a plume of smoke along with my sigh. Nothing tasted quite as bad as a cigarette when he was down in the dumps.
So what are you gonna do?
I'm not going to do anything, he said. The editor told me no.
Oh? Editor said not to? You sound like a child.
Your buff made my temper flare. There are other interviews to do. I want to follow up on this, but there isn't any time.
You dumbass!
Toyama hauled off, hit me right across the face.
What happened to right what I feel in my heart? That's the one thing I refuse to back down on. What happened to the guy who used to bitch at me like that?
Toyama's words hit their mark with painful precision.
The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. No, you refuse to let them be over. You go after truth no matter what anyone tells you. Is that what being a journalist is all about? God damn it.
I scowled and... Is that with me then?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's right.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
One saying that. I scowled and chagrined. The man was exactly right. Till you have what you need. Those words had stuck with me ever since. In fact, I quit the paper just to become a freelancer. Couldn't do my job the way I wanted to, while trapped in that hierarchy. Now I wondered, what if Toyama hadn't killed himself, but had instead been the victim of a terrorist attack? After considering the idea for a moment, I thought bitterly, so what? Reasons and the details hardly mattered at this point. What mattered is that Toyama was dead. I sat down listlessly and stared up at the sky. The blank swath of blue made me feel all the more worn out. Just what had all of the days running around been for? I felt so empty, so hollowed out by loss. All my motivation had drained away. I had no idea what I should do next. Hey, Minorikawa, what should you do? I tried to listen to my own inner voice. Seem like both the same thing, basically. Let's go A. I've forgotten my passion. I need to get that back. Yeah. That was my only option, really. I needed to turn back the clock. To reclaim that fire that used to burn inside me. And I knew just how to do that. Before I could move, however, a young man stumbled across my path, taking a nasty fall onto the pavement.
Emilio, I think.
How? Oh, damn, that hurts.
The youngster scrambled back onto his feet and turned to me with a snarl.
Oh, Panda.
Is that me?
Yeah, cured you.
What are you looking at, pal? Wait, am I talking
The young man clutched a piece of timber like a club. There was a nasty gleam in his eyes. I'm not looking at anything, I sighed. I just happened to be looking in your direction.
Shut your yap. Apologize, bitch. Now!
Punk raised his cudgel. What for?
You tricked me, man. Ain't you gonna apologize for that?
Kid had stumbled all on his own. He's probably too embarrassed to admit it. Guess he's gotta vent his anger out at someone. Listen, kid, I said. It's not my fault you're such a klutz.
The hell you just saying to me? You got a death wish, pal?
With a murderous glare, the punk advanced on me, brandishing his weapon. Hey! I said.
Bring it on, old man.
Let's do A. Is it fun hitting people with that thing? The corner of the punk's mouth curled up.
Yeah. Real fun. Only a dumbass here beats people with their bare hands. You just wind up hurting your fist. If you're gonna enjoy some violence, you gotta have yourself a weapon.
Ah, I see. In that case, maybe give it a rest with that stick, yeah?
Huh? What for?
Punk scowled in irritation. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that there have to be better weapons than that. Something that could take a man down in a single blow. Kid, stop to consider my words for a moment.
I get ya. Yeah, you may be right. Might be right about that. And I think I have just the thing. May as well go with my usual.
He tossed away the piece of wood on the side of the road.
Don't you go anywhere till I get back. Got it?
Yeah, sure thing. I watched the punk headed back the way he'd come. Man, I remember, what a dumbass. Looking around, I spotted a taxi parked close by. It was Kimizuka.
Do you need a ride, sir?
Kimizuka asked. All politeness as he opened up the back door.
You're heading to that publishing office again. I can get you there in 10 minutes.
Kimizuka's driving was as smooth as always. He drove his way skillfully through a series of back streets.
There's some big explosion earlier.
He explained.
Main rails are all gridlocked.
Yeah, I muttered. I was there when it happened.
Oh wow, really? Glad to see you're not hurt then. Still, what a terrible thing. That minivan. I hear someone was inside when it exploded. Not sure you were aware.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Oh, nothing gets past a reporter like you, I see.
Kimazuka flashed me an approving smile through the rearview mirror.
How much have you heard then? Rumor has it the person who died was a middle-aged man.
Oh, huh.
We taxi drivers tend to hear quite a bit ourselves.
Kimazuka chuckled, but I cast my eyes down forlornly.
Look tired, sir.
Yeah, I guess so. My reply was barely audible. Suddenly, someone rushed out onto the street right in front of the cab.
Is that you?
I guess it would be the driver, considering I'm half asleep in the back.
Look out!
There was a heavy thunk as the taxi crashed into the pedestrian. Screeching to a halt, Kimazuka and I jumped out of the vehicle to find a young man splayed out on the street.
Hey,
The driver called.
you're right.
The fallen pedestrian was practically still a kid, and he wasn't moving. Kimazuka hunkered down and jostled his shoulder, then his expression stiffened in alarm. I checked the young man's pulse, but couldn't detect any heartbeat.
Oh no.
Kimazuka said.
This is...
Tears began to well up in his eye. I turned to him in surprise. You knew him?
I did.
Kimazuka cradled the young man in his arms.
I'm sorry, but you have to find yourself another taxi.
He said.
I'm gonna turn myself in to the police.
Looking down at the boy's unmoving form, Minorikawa felt a pang of guilt. No. I'm the one who's been asking you to drive around so recklessly all day. This is on me, too.
But...
I'll go with you to the cops. The two men decided to head to the station, together to surrender ourselves. There probably wouldn't be time to work on writing articles while they were being interrogated. That was just how it'd have to be. This was the right thing to do. I just had to keep telling myself that, knowing that it was the truth.
Emilio, you're Achi today. Nolan.
Oi, get back in!
Oh wait, we did do this part already. Hold on. this part is new, right?
Maybe. I think so.
Not sure.
Well, we should start
Yes.
from here. Emilio, go ahead.
I put the guy down, turned around to see Susumu standing there.
Panda, you're playing this guy.
Mind telling me what's going on here, Achi?
Susumu flashed his underlings a sharp glare. They immediately took to their heels. B. What the hell was going on with SOS? I needed to talk with Susumu.
You. Wait, is it?
Panda.
I asked what was going on here.
There was a threatening note in Susumu's voice. That's what I want to know. What the hell's happened to SOS, man? Susumu's face twisted with displeasure.
You're an outsider now. That's none of your business.
I don't give a damn if it's my business or not. When I left you in charge of SOS,
You shut your damn mouth.
Susumu roared.
Yeah, that's right. You left me in charge. Don't you dare give me any lip now about how I run things.
His sudden ferocity left me at a loss for words.
You're not the one busting your ass out here. I am.
Susumu stalked towards Achi, towards me, his face red with emotion.
I've had to work so hard to keep things going with you gone. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Do you know what I've done to put myself through to keep SOS together?
There's nothing I could say to that. I just kept my mouth shut and let Susumu talk.
You were gone. I thought maybe I could do things like you did.
All at once, Susumu seemed to deflate a little. He hung his head, hiding his face.
And if I couldn't be like you, then
Hey man, I get it, and I'm sorry. But Susumu kept his face averted.
please,
He muttered.
stay out of our business.
Then he turned on his heel and headed off without looking back. I watched him leave, feeling a painful sting.
Kyle.
Achi,
Hitomi asked after Susumu was gone.
are you sure you're okay leaving things like this?
I shrugged heavily. Susumu said he's doing what he can. It's not my place to butt in. I turned his back on Hitomi. I turned my back on Hitomi. I still needed a moment.
Achi, you're being unreasonable.
About what? I felt like I'd been wounded to my very core, and I wasn't sure what to do about it.
You want to help people who are in trouble, right?
Hitomi asked quietly. Yeah, I guess. I My voice was glum.
Well, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now.
Yeah, I know that.
No, Achi, you don't.
Tomi's tone was clipped and firm.
Please, go to your sister.
What are you talking about? That doesn't matter now.
Yes, it does!
Hitomi's shout stopped me in my tracks.
Achi, right now the thing I'm having the most trouble with is that you won't go to the hospital. Don't you get it? How can I possibly be happy with you helping me if you have to sacrifice your own sister to do it?
I couldn't answer that. And I knew it.
Please, go to the hospital. I'm asking you to. And I'm definitely someone in trouble, so it doesn't count as breaking your promise. Right?
I appreciate that, I said softly. B. So yeah, how about we drop by the hospital for a bit? The emotions I had been trying to hide now came welling to the surface. Well, we'll go see Suzune, and after that, we can go look for your sister. Would that be okay with you?
That would be more than okay with me.
And at long last, Hitomi smiled at me. Back in sync with each other, myself and Hitomi headed to the hospital. Shibuya Central Hospital was one of the foremost general hospitals in Japan, outfitted with top-notch medical facilities and staffed by highly skilled personnel. Individuals like Suzune, with rare blood types, were sent to the hospital from far and wide because of its cutting-edge hematology center. I asked Hitomi to stay in the waiting area while I headed on into the hospital proper. From the visitor's entrance, I passed by the nurse's station, then entered the cardiovascular medicine section and walked along a row of examination rooms. I walked by the first room as quietly as possible, catching sight of a mother and daughter sitting together in chairs in the hallway. The mother was crying softly.
Jules.
Oh, Takuya. It's only 15.
She murmured under her breath. The name Takuya didn't ring a bell. It was the only 15 that got a reaction out of me. Only 15. I couldn't imagine anything good coming after that. Be cruelly taken away when one was still so young. I could feel the woman's pain as deeply as if it were my own. When I reached Suzune's room, Dr. Saeki, the attending physician, explained her condition. The doctor did his best to keep his explanation simple, but I was too worked up to process much of what he said. I did manage to wrap my head around a few things. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Suzune had had a seizure. For a while, it had been touch and go, but finally her condition was stabilized. However, since she hadn't regained consciousness yet, she wasn't allowed any visitors. That was the gist, as far as I could tell.
Nolan.
What's your father doing today? He still hasn't come by.
Dr. Saeki said. I wasn't sure what to tell him. It was certainly odd. There's no way my father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he'd heard Suzune had been taken a turn for the worse.
Give you a call when she's woken up. For now, you can head home for the day.
Alright. Please, keep a close eye on her, Doctor. Somberly, I went to find Hitomi in the waiting area. Outpatient reception had closed for the day, leaving the hospital quiet. My footsteps echoed softly in the corridors. Then, as I walked along, a peculiar sound drew my attention. It had come from over by the base of a nearby stairwell. I took a peek around the corner. The sight that greeted me nearly made me gasp aloud. In the dim light up ahead, I saw Caanan, and she had some white guy pressed against the wall, a knife to his throat. I quickly yanked his head back out of view. Could it be? Was this the man Caanan said she was after? I had to resist the urge to go charging out there. Some amateur heading in half-cocked might well be more of a liability to Caanan than any sort of help. I heard her mutter something to the man in English.
Kyle.
We know nothing about Alfred's background, nationality, sex, age.
I could just barely make out the words, but since it was all in English, I had no idea what they meant.
But we do know that whoever they are, they have connections to Langley.
I peeked out again, very cautiously, in time to see the man raise an eyebrow at Caanan's words.
Panda.
He might not be there.
Sorry, did you say me?
Nolan, just go for it, since Panda's gone.
Interesting. That doesn't mean you need to threaten me at knife point, though.
He flashed her a thin smile.
It does, actually. Because I happen to know that you're a CIA agent.
No sooner were Caanan's words out than the man grabbed her arm and tried to hurl her against the wall. Just before her head connected, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward, then planted both feet against the wall and kicked off with tremendous force. She used her momentum to launch herself forward, regaining her position with her knife against the man's throat. But during his brief opening, the man had managed to draw a gun from inside his jacket. Now the barrel was pressed right against Caanan's heart. I swallowed the lump in my throat.
How about we call a truce?
Caanan said softly. She withdrew her knife.
Keep going, Nolan.
Yeah. Sounds like you and me are both after the same thing.
The man likewise lowered his gun. With a faint smile, Caanan turned her back on him and vanished down the adjacent stairwell. I had no idea what had just happened. They'd stopped fighting, though, so this guy probably wasn't Canaan's mastermind after all. If only I spoke a little English, I might have been able to follow their conversation. I found myself wishing I'd taken school more seriously. When I looked again, I saw that the man too had disappeared. Hitomi stood up from her chair as I hurried into the waiting room area.
How's Suzune?
She asked. For now, she's not in any immediate danger, they said.
That's good to hear.
But more importantly, Caanan was here just now.
What? Why?
I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I slumped my shoulders.
Huh? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Exactly. I couldn't understand anything she was saying. Hell, I couldn't even figure out how to get through to Hitomi.
Achi.
May I have a moment?
Oh.
A voice spoke unexpectedly from behind me. His breath caught in his throat as my breath caught in my throat as I turned around. Standing there was the man Caanan had been struggling with. What's up? I asked. I tried to sound as nonchalant as possible, but the man wasn't looking at me.
Nolan.
You're Hitomi Osawa, is that right?
Oh, Panda's back. Go ahead, Panda.
You're Hitomi Sawa, is that right?
Yes.
Hey, I snapped. Keep your distance. I stepped protectively in front of Hitomi. This guy, he's not what he looks like. I clenched my fist and adopted a defensive posture.
Huh?
Hitomi seemed panicked. I said, B? I don't know who he is, but he's not our friend. The man calmly reached into his jacket pocket. Fearing he might be about to draw his gun, I braced for action.
My name is Jack Stanley. I'm a security assistance officer with the U.S. Embassy.
I held back my punch as the man held out his ID card. Embassy?
What does someone from the US Embassy want with me?
Hitomi asked timidly.
You're being targeted by a dangerous criminal. I'm here to take you into protective custody.
Custody?
Custody? My temper flared. Buzz off, pal. We're busy here.
Is he searching for Maria Osawa?
Stanley asked. I and Hitomi exchanged glances.
I know the full details of the trouble you currently find yourselves in.
Well, alright then, I said. Then you should know we don't have time to get taken into custody.
I'm afraid you don't understand the situation we're dealing with. We're up against a dangerous international criminal here. Taking reckless action is only going to put her life in danger. Don't be a fool. This is no time to play the knight in shining armor.
Hey! I was infuriated, but I couldn't think of a comeback. After all, it was true that Hitomi had run into danger time and again while she was with me.
But I'm already safe.
Hitomi insisted.
I'm only here right now because Achi has been protecting me.
She eyed Stanley sharply.
I've got Achi with me. I don't need your protection.
I felt a surge of pride that practically brought tears to my eyes. If Hitomi would have let him, if Hitomi had let me, I'd have given her an enormous hug. Stanley grimaced in resignation.
Alright. In that case, how about I join your search for Maria? I can help keep you safe that way instead.
I don't know. Hitomi grabbed hold of Achi's sleeve. This Stanley fellow didn't have the most trustworthy face, I thought. But I realized that he might be biased after chasing around by foreigners all day. After all, if this guy really were after Hitomi, he'd probably have already made a show of force. Not only did he have a gun on him, he was sufficiently skilled in martial arts to hold his own against Caanan. He'd have no trouble taking down a single unarmed opponent like me. Hitomi, I get the impression that this Stanley guy's not our enemy right now. Hitomi gave a slight nod.
All right. I trust your judgment on this, Achi.
Now then, what's the plan from here?
Stanley asked.
Not wandering aimlessly around town, I hope.
There was a trace of snideness in his voice. You can just keep your mouth shut, I replied. We can wander around town all day if we feel like it. Two can play the snarky game, I thought to myself. Poor Hitomi looked distressed.
Very well. Very well. If that's what you want, I can stay quiet. But first, I need to inform the police that I have Miss Osawa in my custody.
Wait, hold on.
Hitomi blurted.
That isn't a good idea.
Stanley inclined his head.
Why is that?
Well, since you already seem to know most of the story.
Hitomi quickly explained the kidnapper's threat and described the search for the minivan. Stanley remained quiet, listening with obvious interest.
I see.
He said when she'd finished.
Still, when that minivan exploded, didn't that make your promise to the kidnappers a moot point?
Hitomi nodded.
I suppose it did, didn't it?
Let me just ask one more question. Do either of you know a detective by the name of Tateno?
No. We haven't run into any detectives.
Yeah, exactly. The only folks we've seem to run into are guys who are after Hitomi.
I see.
A grim expression crossed Stanley's face.
Right. I'm going to get in touch with the investigation task force. I'll have them contact your parents for you. Would you mind speaking with them so they can confirm it's really you?
Sure, all right.
Hitomi said. Stanley got out his wireless and described their current circumstance to the police.
Nolan, go for it.
Mr. Endo, hold on.
Suddenly, Dr. Saeki appeared, running down the hallway.
There's something I forgot to tell you regarding your father.
Oh? I got a sinking feeling.
I got a call from him yesterday afternoon. He asked me something rather odd. Preparations for a transplant. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure what you're... I'm not entirely sure I understand what you're asking.
Saeki clutched the receiver. Daisuke Endo's brooding tone was more than a little disturbing.
Nolan, Plando too.
No, it's alright.
Endo said.
This is all just difficult to talk about, Doctor. Please, forget I said anything. There's just one important thing I wanted to let you know.
Yes?
There's going to be a brain-dead woman coming your way. At probably around 9 o'clock this evening, I expect. Her blood type is Bombay.
Bombay was the extremely rare blood type that Endo's daughter, Suzune, possessed. Any transplant donor for Suzune would also need to have the Bombay blood type.
Since she has the same blood type as Suzune, transplant itself isn't an issue.
Endo continued.
The only thing I'm concerned about is whether the procedure can be done within the limited time window. And I hate to trouble you, but I just called because I think it would be best to prepare for the surgery as soon as possible.
The more Saeki heard, the more disturbed he grew. It felt like he was listening this man go on about some strange delusion.
Doctor, please, just take good care of Suzune.
With that, Endo hung up. I kept quiet as I listened to Dr. Saeki's story.
Of course, that was yesterday. Still haven't heard anything about a brain-dead girl turning up. After all, God would know when someone... Excuse me. After all, only God would know when someone would wind up in a state of brain death. Still, there was just something very strange about what your father said. As if he was certain that someone was going to wind up brain dead, or...
Just stop right there, I exclaimed. Stanley and Hitomi turned in surprise. They were still in the middle of their wireless call to the police.
Don't get me wrong, Don't get me wrong.
The doctor said hastily.
I'm not trying to imply that your father would hurt anyone. What I'm worried about is your father's mental state in...
No, I interrupted him again. That's not it. His own words from earlier spun within my head. So long as we have these cameras, this guy has nowhere to run. The security cameras. I'm sure this is the place. The man with the cane. He'd been on the phone with someone. That didn't mean anything. It was just a coincidence. It couldn't be true. I searched desperately for some other explanation. That was it. Anyone from the downtown committee could have used the camera monitoring room. No dice. No one from downtown had been by the surveillance room today. It couldn't be. It couldn't. I began to tremble.
Is something the matter?
Hitomi asked.
Achi, you're pale as a ghost.
I gazed beseechingly back into her face. Just one simple question. I could clear this whole thing up. Please, tell me I'm overthinking this. I prayed inwardly before asking. Hitomi, would you mind telling me your blood type?
Hmm? Why do you ask?
Please, just tell me.
I have sort of a weird blood type.
Hitomi said.
It's called Bombay.
The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. There was no longer any room for doubt. I found myself facing a sad and painful truth. Why? Why? With an anguished scream, I punched the wall as hard as I could. But my fist still didn't hurt as much as my heart. Dad, why?
I sat down in a chair in the hallway in a bit of a daze. I found myself holding the present Sayama had gotten for his wife. I had to do something. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. My restlessness gnawed at me like a rabid animal. And I think. Wait, we did a scene for. Alright, I think this might be new, so go ahead.
Wait, just start first?
Yeah.
Alright. I'd like to get your opinion on something. So Mamoru Tonaka, who we found in the minivan, you know? What you think? Should we add him, maybe release his name to the media?
Tuesday slipped into his childish register. Wait, we have seen this.
Yeah.
Panda, you're assault for tonight.
Ooh, good. Wait, what?
Yeah, you're playing Asawa tonight.
Who's this out again? I don't want to know how people feel. All I want to know is what viruses feel. I prefer viruses because they make no move to encroach on me from their side of my microscope. They leave me free to let my thoughts wander as I wish. And while it may be true to say I understand viruses, I have never been able to understand my fellow humans. I don't know them. I don't know a single fundamental thing about them. It's Nakadash. Trying to use a backup password to the fingerprint scanner had become a hopeless endeavor. The only remaining means of gaining entry to the storage area was to issue an emergency unlock request to the electronic lock manufacturer. And in order to do that, they needed approval from the 6 members of the board of directors. Returning to my study, I called Makino's personal cell phone.
Hold on. Leo?
What is it?
Makino said gruffly as soon as he picked up. I informed him of the situation, including Tanaka's death, and the fact that Maria was infected. The news left Makino at a loss for words. Please, I begged. You need to hold an emergency board meeting. Makino was silent for a few moments.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Why not? Are you just going to sit by and let my daughter die? I raged. And not just her. If Maria goes symptomatic, that was still only an if, but I was reluctant to put my fears to words. If she goes symptomatic, the Uwa virus will sweep through all of Tokyo.
I realized that,
Makino replied.
but one of the board members is overseas on business. Holding a meeting is impossible.
Despite the gravity of the situation, he sounded astoundingly nonchalant. I couldn't back down now. There must be some other option, like a web conference or something.
That doesn't help us if we can't get in touch with him.
Makino huffed.
He went missing a few days ago, in the middle of his business trip.
I was almost too appalled to be angry. That's the most ridiculous lie I've ever heard.
Would you like to speak to my on-site contact if you don't believe me?
This was like arguing with a child. If Makino was deliberately working against him or against me, I'd never know if this appearance was real or not. In that case, can you please appoint a representative instead? I pleaded.
Selecting a representative is a complicated process. Even if we started right now, it would take until sometime tomorrow afternoon to complete.
Tomorrow afternoon. By then it would be too late for any of this to matter. Sir, can't you see how absurd the things you're saying are?
What would you have me do?
Makino barked.
These are the realities of corporate politics.
I understand, sir. You'll do nothing for my daughter. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
Makino replied.
Look, I'll see what I can do to appoint a representative more quickly.
He hung up. His tone had suggested that waiting for an appointee wouldn't be a terribly hopeful prospect. I have no more allies, I thought. All I have left now are foes. I couldn't count on anyone anymore. I was just going to have to get the antiviral by myself. Tanaka might be dead, but there still must be some way to get that lock open. Taking extra care to avoid the noise of the detectives, I snuck out of the house and headed for the garage.
All right. I'm sorry. Getting dragged into a street fight was not what I need right now. It's better to just apologize and be done with it.
Panda.
Should have shown me that kind of respect from the start.
Punk shook his head, muttering under his breath.
Another dumbass gotta get taught some manners.
That the young thug headed off in the direction of Dogensa. I headed up to the roof of the nearby building and lit myself a cigarette. Tiny tendrils of white smoke drifted lazily up into the blue sky. My eyes tracked the twisting movements of the smoke. Memories of Toyama and our newspaper days played through my mind. Actually, any time the two men needed to speak to it, actually, any time we needed to speak to one another, we had gotten into a heated argument on the spot. I cherished his subjective viewpoints, my subjective viewpoints, while Toyama insisted on objectivity for the readership. Neither shied away from vigorous headbutting. But once the articles were on the page and out the door, it was all water under the bridge. It felt almost like the referee calling no side at the end of a rugby match. It was that somewhere deep down, I got where Toyama was coming from. Without objectivity, readers didn't get the fact. Without subjectivity, they didn't get any emotional impact. I had to credit Toyama for helping me become a full-fledged reporter. Me here?
Just go for it.
Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide. I let Chiaki's words strain from my mind. Overriding them, one irresistible fact. The truth. Truth was in anything and everything. Truth could not be forgotten. Truth was all that remained in the end. I sighed grimly at myself. I'd come up here hoping to reignite my passion, my journalistic passion, but instead, the emptiness within me had only grown. Yeah. Guess this is gonna take a while. I sparked up a second cigarette. From the edge of the rooftop, I gazed down at the city below, no longer aware of the passage of time. No matter how hard I tried to write about the truth, ultimately, I hadn't been able to change a thing. Just what it had all been for. The last ghost of my desire to keep up the struggle left me, as I considered how meaningless it all had been.
Don't do anything rash.
An intruder abruptly shattered my brooding silence. A man in a suit had appeared behind me, and I rushed closer, calling out with concern.
Let's not be hasty. Nobody's going to be happy if you jump.
If I jumped? I stepped on to the very edge and cast my gaze straight down. That might not be a bad idea. Hell, maybe some part of me actually wanted to. Suddenly it felt like the natural course of action. From up here, the city looked like a miniature diorama of cars and people. It didn't seem quite real.
Stop! Don't do it!
I took another step forward despite the stranger's words. Feeling a splendid sense of liberation as I did so. I allowed my body to go limp, assigning myself to the fall. Just as I began to topple, I was abruptly yanked back.
Don't go wasting your life like this!
The stranger barked. The look on his face was outrageously solemn. And then for some reason, He slapped a handcuff onto my right wrist. What? Before I could react, the man locked the second cuff in the pair around the nearby fence.
I promise I'll come back. Please, just stay alive a few minutes longer, okay?
And with that, the guy darted away. What the hell? I muttered. I found myself alone again, unable to go anywhere even if I wanted to. Feeling emptier than ever, I resumed my aimless vigil, staring out across Shibuya. And in the end, the man never did come back. Not even after the sun had set. Night had fallen. The next bleak morning came.
I hear a faint voice and realize that the man is listening to a wireless radio.
I've managed to secure Hitomi Asawa at Shibuya Central Hospital.
The voice says. A gleam comes to the gunman's eyes. He pulls his cell phone from his jacket and hurriedly makes a call.
I've secured Maria Osawa.
He says to whoever's on the other end. Huh? Maria Osawa? Is my name Maria Osawa?
You need to bring Hitomi Osawa to my location at once.
Hitomi Osawa. If I'm Maria Osawa, what sort of relationship do I have with Hitomi?
If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria.
Then my captor hangs up. Were you serious just now? My voice wavers uncontrollably. Oh, what do you mean you'll kill me?
Don't look at me like that.
He steps in closer to me, his expression dangerous. That killer's edge that he'd lost during our little talk is back in full force.
Just bear with me a little longer.
He blindfolds my eyes with some sort of towel. I can't see through it at all. Just then, I hear Caanan's voice inside my head. My memories are like shards of broken glass, tumbling through my mind all out of sequence. How are you able to do that when the string is so tangled up?
Oh, once you know the trick to it, you can do it with your eyes closed. Oops. Backwards.
I'm showing Caanan how to do a cat's cradle. She reaches out for the string.
Huh?
She doesn't get hold of it quite right.
What gives?
Despite her efforts, the string gets all jumbled up. No, not like that, I say. Hook your index fingers through the front part of the string.
No, I get that.
Caanan's getting irritated. But after giving it a few more tries, she finally manages to pull it off.
There we go,
she says.
Look at that.
Seeing her innocent little smile bolsters my own spirits.
That's neat. Thanks for teaching me.
Oh, it's nothing special.
Here. As thanks, let me teach you some skills to help protect yourself.
Abruptly, my memory jumps forward a bit. Caanan has been training me in some form of self-defense.
Don't overthink it,
she says.
People will either try to punch you, kick you, or grab you. If you can stay ready for those 3 things, you'll be able to take it from there.
She demonstrates some defensive movements as I watch. I follow suit, doing my best to mimic her. Okay, let's do this. Caanan throws a punch at me. I dodge, grab her by the wrist, and give her a hard twist. Incredibly, she goes whirling through the air. She lands nimbly on her feet, a little grin coming to her face.
Nicely done,
she says. I stare down at my own hand. Did I really just do that?
Once you repeat the movements enough, your body will treat them like second nature.
I do as she says, trying to repeat the movements over and over. At first it feels like a silly gimmick, but eventually I can feel the motions growing smoother.
There you go. People like those thugs we met before won't get the drop on you again.
Thugs? Now my memories zip further back into the past. I was wandering the streets, trying to get back to my hotel, but I'd gotten lost. By the time I realized I'd wandered into some dodgy back streets, I was already surrounded by people giving me threatening looks. They must have been thugs looking for tourists to rob. If they had caught me, I'm not sure I would have made it out alive. But they hadn't. Caanan had seen to that. Thank you so much for what you did for me.
I didn't want there to be a scene here,
Caanan says bluntly as she surveys the aftermath of the thug's attack.
That's all.
I'd happened to be right underneath her apartment window when I was nearly abducted. Bit by bit, my memories of Caanan are starting to resurface. Just a little more. Just a little more and I'll have myself back. I'm sure of it.
Detective Tateno, where are you?
A man's voice suddenly snaps me back into the moment.
It's Caanan. I come as you asked.
The gunman grabs me by the arm and yanks me to my feet.
Where's Hitomi Osawa?
He snarls.
Why didn't you bring her?
Detective Tateno, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria?
My captor removes my blindfold. The first thing I see is the sky overhead. It's so bright that I have to lower my eyes. And then I spot someone in the distance. It's a man. There's a man standing on the edge of the roof of the building across the way. Ah! Momentarily forgetting my own situation, I cry out.
Huh?
The young man in front of me turns in surprise to see where I'm pointing. The man across the way is staring into the streets below, looking like he might jump at any moment.
Detective Tateno, I'll be right back. We can finish this after.
The young man takes off, disappearing down the stairwell. My heart pounds nervously in my chest as I gaze across the other building. Then my captor, Tateno, grabs the other guy as the other guy called him, grabs my arm.
Let's go.
Huh? Are we heading over there too?
No. I'm going somewhere else. I don't know where yet.
Tateno's got his gun trained on me again. Looks like I don't have any choice but to go with him. He nudges me on, and we head for the stairs. I take a quick look back at the sky above the city. This may be the last time I ever see the sky. For some reason, that thought resounds inside my head.